The year was 1885, and Deadwood's thoroughfares were ribbons of muck. Elias Thorne, his boots heavy with clinging earth, navigated the creaking boardwalks. The dim gas lamps cast distorted shadows. It was nearing midnight, but Deadwood rarely slept. Saloons pulsed with discordant piano music and clinking glasses. Every corner whispered of ruin or redemption. Elias pulled his worn fedora lower and pushed into the serpent's coil. The air inside was thick with stale whiskey, cigar smoke, and desperate hope. This was no place for reputable cattlemen. It was the haunt of washed-up gunfighters, card sharks, and outlaws. The serpent's coil was bustling. Cowboys, miners, and sharp-eyed gamblers circled the poker tables like predators. Elias's gaze swept the room until it snagged on a familiar face, Silas Blackwood. Time had done little to alter him. The same predatory smile, serpentine eyes, and ostentatious waistcoat that looked comically out of place. Years ago, they'd nearly killed each other over a fixed game. Tonight, fate had brought them back together. Thorne, Blackwood's voice cut through the din, mockingly cheerful. Heard your herds ain't faring much better than your luck these days. Elias kept an unreadable expression as he approached. Funny, Blackwood. I'd have thought you'd be in a cell by now. Or a coffin. Blackwood's laugh was a low, oily sound. Deadwood's full of surprises. Care for a hand? Elias hesitated. His pride screamed at him to walk away. But the image of Willow Creek Ranch, the parched fields, ailing livestock, and the crushing disappointment in Alara's eyes held him captive. He was at the end of his rope. His savings were gone. The bank's breath was hot on his neck, and the thought of losing their home gnawed at him. What's the buy-in? Elias asked. Blackwood's grin widened. High stakes tonight, Thorne. $500, or whatever else a man might possess of value. Elias's jaw tightened. I don't have that kind of coin. Lucky for you, Blackwood purred. There's a little side wager. He snapped his fingers, and a hulking henchman dragged a figure from the shadows. A girl, rail-thin, grimy, no older than 13. Her tangled hair framed a sharp face, bruised but defiant. But it was her eyes that chilled Elias. Cold, piercing, too aged for her frame. Wolf's eyes, straight from the alleys, Blackwood explained casually. Owes me more than she could ever repay. So she's collateral. Win the hand, you win the girl. Lose, well, you walk out with empty pockets and a heavier conscience. Elias's stomach churned. The idea of gambling for a child repulsed him, but desperation, pride, and the failing fences of Willow Creek drowned out his better judgment. The girl met his gaze, unflinching, devoid of fear, only a flicker of contempt. What's your name, kid? Elias asked quietly. Clara, she replied, her voice rough. Clarice. Blackwood chuckled. She's got spirit. Might make good ranch help if you win, of course. Elias's fists clenched. He distrusted Blackwood completely, but walking away meant losing more than pride. It meant Willow Creek, Alara's dream, their last chance, would crumble. Deal the cards, Elias said. The game was 5-card draw. No wilds. No mercy. The saloon fell silent. Elias's heart pounded as he eyed his hand. Decent. Blackwood smirked, confidence radiating. The final draw came. Elias discarded 2, drawing replacements. His fingers trembled with desperation. Full house. Show them, Blackwood commanded. Elias laid his cards down. Blackwood's smirk faltered as he revealed his own hand, a straight. Good, but not good enough. A low murmur rippled through the room. Blackwood's eyes darkened. Looks like the girl's yours, he said, his voice slick with false charm. Elias rose, pocketing his meager winnings. I didn't come for this, but I'm not leaving her here. Clarice stepped forward, her expression unreadable, but her eyes, those wolf's eyes, gleamed with something Elias recognized, survival. Let's go, he told her, pushing through the saloon doors. Elias couldn't shake the feeling he'd just won far more, and far less, than he'd bargained for. Somewhere in the shadows, Silas Blackwood watched them go, a predator's smile twisting his lips. Deadwood's full of surprises, Elias muttered. He had a chilling feeling this was only the beginning. The wagon groaned as Elias guided the horses west, away from Deadwood, towards the rolling hills of Willow Creek Ranch. The sky was a dull gray, making the land seem endless. A biting wind swept down from the Black Hills, stirring dust and the faint scent of rain. Beside him sat Clarice, small, wiry, a bundle of sharp elbows and fierce suspicion. Elias had tossed his old canvas duster over her shoulders, but it hung like a tarp. She sat ramrod straight, arms crossed, eyes sharp and restless. Wolf's eyes. They had ridden for nearly an hour in silence. "You always this quiet?" Elias finally asked. Clara shrugged. "Depends on whether a man's worth talking to." Elias let out a dry chuckle. "Fair enough." Silence settled again, broken only by hooves and creaking wood. They passed scrub brush and the skeletal remains of old cattle fences. In the distance, the Black Hills loomed like broken teeth. "You work for Blackwood?" Elias asked. Clara's eyes flicked to him, unreadable. "I work near him, never for him." "Same difference, far as I see it." "Not to me." Her voice was steel beneath silk, flat, controlled, too old for her 13 years. Elias recognized the tone. He'd heard it from men and women chewed up and spat out by the world. "You owe him money?" Clara's lips twitched. "I owed him my hand. Caught me stealing bread. He could have taken my hand. Offer me a deal instead. Run messages, watch doors, count coin, stay quiet." Elias's stomach knotted. Blackwood enjoyed making examples. Clara, small and scrappy, would have been easy prey. "You steal from him again?" Elias asked. "No, so why'd he stake you in a card game?" Clara's jaw tightened. "Because I stopped being useful. And because men like him, they like reminding folks you can always fall lower." Elias fell silent. The wind picked up, whistling through the wagon spokes. "Hungry?" he asked after a moment. Clara shrugged. "Ate yesterday. Maybe. Well, Alara will see you fed. She don't abide skinny folks in her house." Clara's expression flickered, doubt, disbelief, a sliver of hope, then vanished, replaced by that guarded stare. They crested a rise, and Willow Creek Ranch sprawled below them, nestled by the creek. The ranch house stood weathered but proud. A barn leaned, fences sagged, and few cows grazed listlessly. It wasn't much, but it was home. Elias reined in the horses. "This is it." Clara surveyed the place. "Looks half dead." "Ain't wrong," Elias admitted. "But it's ours." The front door swung open. Alara Thorne appeared, arms folded, her eyes locked on Clara. "Elias Thorne, what in God's name?" "This is Clarice," Elias cut in, climbing down. "She's help. Help." Alara's sharp gaze didn't waver. "She's a child. Child or not, she's sharp. We could use an extra pair of hands." Elias trailed off, uncertain how to explain the poker game, the desperation. Clara slipped off the wagon, chin tilted up, defiant. Alara's eyes narrowed. "How old are you?" 13, Clara replied. 14 come winter. Alara studied her, then turned to Elias. "We'll talk later." She motioned Clara inside. "Come inside. You look like you've been sleeping in alleys." "Sometimes," Clara said simply. Inside, the house was warm, smelling faintly of wood smoke and coffee. Furniture was worn but well kept. Elias watched as Alara heated soup. Clara hovered awkwardly, her eyes never still. "You don't have to run," Alara said gently. "Ain't nobody here going to hurt you." Clara's mouth tightened, but she nodded. Elias watched. He wasn't sure what he'd brought home, but seeing Clara's stubborn chin, haunted eyes, and Alara's softening frown, he had a feeling things at Willow Creek were about to change. Somewhere, in Deadwood's shadows, Elias knew Silas Blackwood hadn't forgotten them. The girl with wolf's eyes was his problem now, and likely his salvation or ruin. The first few days with Clarice were tense. Alara, years of disappointment etched on her face, had yearned for children but suffered miscarriages. Now, with this hard-eyed street urchin, she was wary. Elias felt the same. Clara took to ranch work like she'd been born to it. She mucked stalls, hauled water, gathered eggs, and chopped wood with quiet efficiency. She never complained, never wasted words, and never seemed fully at ease. But there were moments, small cracks, when Elias glimpsed the child beneath. Her eyes lit up watching horses, her fingers lingered on barn cats. She didn't trust easily, but she was watching, waiting, measuring. It reminded him of himself. One morning, Elias found Clara perched on the fence, scanning the hills. "Storm's moving in," Elias remarked. "Smells like rain," Clara replied. Elias leaned beside her. "You keep watch like that all the time?" Clara shrugged. "Old habit. From Blackwood. From life." Elias studied her, noting dirt smudges, thin wrists. For all her bravado, She looked breakable. You sleeping all right? Clara shrugged. Non-committal. Look, I know this ain't exactly a grand welcome wagon, Elias offered. But Alara's got a soft heart. It's just been bruised some. I ain't looking for sympathy, Clara cut in. You paid for me. I work. Elias's jaw clenched at the reminder. The damn card game. You ain't property, Elias said firmly. You're here 'cause I figured you deserved better than what Blackwood had planned. Clara's gaze softened, just barely. You always gamble for strays? First time, Elias admitted. Might be my dumbest bet yet. A ghost of a smile touched her lips. That evening, over supper, Alara finally broke the silence. You any good with a needle, Clara? Clara blinked. I can patch a shirt. Ain't pretty. Pretty ain't always practical, Alara replied, passing a torn work shirt. Elias watched them settle into a cautious rhythm. Later that night, as the wind howled, Elias sat at the kitchen table. Clara padded in barefoot, eyes heavy. Can't sleep? Clara hesitated. Too quiet. Elias chuckled. Most folks like quiet. Not in Deadwood, Clara muttered. Quiet means trouble sneaking up on you. Elias's amusement faded. Ain't Deadwood here. Clara hugged her knees, eyes darting to the window. Don't mean trouble can't find us. Elias sipped his coffee. Listen, I ain't blind that Blackwood ain't likely to forget about you. But out here, he gestured, we look after our own. Clara's shoulders eased a fraction. You ever worked cattle before? Elias asked, changing the subject. No. Ride a horse, stole one once, Clara admitted. Didn't fall off. Elias chuckled. Beginner's luck. You'll need more than that on a ranch. Clara's lips twitched. I'm a fast learner. Good. You'll need to be. You still got that street rat fire in you? Elias observed. Clara tilted her chin, defiant. Only thing kept me alive this long. Elias nodded. Might be the thing keeps this ranch alive, too. They sat in silence. Clara stood. Night, Mr. Thorne, she said quietly. Elias is fine, he replied. And welcome to Willow Creek. Clara paused, then disappeared. Elias exhaled, rubbing his face. A stranger under his roof, a child tangled in crime. And maybe, just maybe, the best gamble he'd ever made. 3 weeks passed. Life on Willow Creek settled into an uneasy rhythm. Clarice worked tirelessly. Alara, wary at first, thawed, teaching Clara to bake and mend. But unease lingered. It began with tracks. Elias found them by the creek. Horse prints, fresh, too fresh. No neighbors rode this far. His gut, honed by saloon brawls, said otherwise. 2 days later, Clara was tending the vegetable patch when she paused, eyes narrowing toward the eastern hills. Elias, fixing the corral fence, noticed her stiffness. You see something? Elias called. Clara didn't answer, her gaze fixed on the ridge. Finally, she shook her head. Nothing. Just thought I saw a glint, like sunlight off glass. Elias's blood ran cold. A spyglass. That night, Elias sat with Alara and Clara. Tracks near the creek. Someone scouting. If someone's watching, they ain't neighbors. Alara paled. Blackwood. Clara shifted. If you know something, now's the time to talk. For the first time, Clara's composure cracked. She fiddled with her sleeve. I wasn't just a runner for Blackwood, she whispered. I handled things. Handled what? Elias pressed. Clara exhaled. His books. His ledgers. I kept track of who owed him, where money went, who in the law looked the other way. Alara's eyes widened. You were his accountant? Clara's lips curled. Don't need to be grown to count crooked money, ma'am. Elias leaned forward. You steal something from him before you left. Clara reached into her boot, pulling out a small leather-bound ledger. Ain't just numbers in here. Names, dates, payoffs. Town marshals, judges, maybe even a few Pinkertons. Alara covered her mouth. Elias's mind raced. You planned on using this? To bargain for your life? Clara nodded. If Blackwood came after me, figured I'd trade it for my skin. But now, her eyes darkened, scanning the Thorne home. Now he's coming here. Silence fell, broken only by the fireplace. Elias picked up the ledger. The implications were clear. Blackwood was entrenched, protected. If he wanted that book back enough to send scouts, things would get ugly. We can take this to the sheriff, Alara suggested, her voice wavering. Elias shook his head. Sheriff Dobson, his name's probably in here too. We can't trust no one from town. So what do we do? Clara asked quietly. Elias met her gaze, responsibility heavy on his shoulders. We get ready. That night, Elias retrieved his old Winchester from the barn loft. Clara helped clean it, her small hands surprisingly deft. You ever shoot? Elias asked. Clara hesitated. Twice in Deadwood. Rats mostly. Elias snorted. Rats or men, pulling the trigger's the same. It's what comes after that's hard. She didn't reply, but her eyes told him she understood. By morning, Elias had tightened fences, reinforced barn doors, and instructed Clara and Alara to stay near the house. He posted himself on the porch, rifle across his lap, eyes scanning the tree line. The shadows of Deadwood stretched long, even out here. Elias Thorne, gambler turned rancher, knew one thing. The bet he'd made wasn't over. It had only just begun. The first shot shattered the pre-dawn quiet. Elias was out of bed, grabbing his Winchester. Alara bolted upright. A second shot cracked, followed by distant hoofs. Stay with Clara, Elias ordered. Alara's face was pale but determined. Be careful. Elias slipped out, rifle in hand. Outside, faint morning light brushed the horizon, casting eerie blue shadows. Clara was already there, barefoot, her small frame tense, eyes locked on the eastern ridge where dust rose. A Henry repeater rested in her hands, her grip steady. They're here, she said simply. Elias followed her gaze. 6 riders emerged, silhouettes against the dawn. At their head rode Jedediah Slade, Blackwood's vicious henchman. Stay low, Elias told Clara, and keep your head. I ain't running, she replied fiercely. Elias's stomach twisted with pride and fear. The kid had backbone. The riders slowed at the gate. Jedediah Slade lifted a hand. Thorne, he called. We come for the girl. Hand her over, and nobody's got to bleed. Elias stepped off the porch, rifle at his side. His heart pounded, but his voice stayed calm. Name's Thorne, he corrected. And you picked the wrong ranch to trespass on. Jedediah chuckled. Don't matter your name. You got something belongs to Mr. Blackwood. We aim to take it back. Behind Elias, the door creaked. Alara peeked out, shotgun cradled. Clara remained at the rail, eyes sharp. What Blackwood wants, Elias said evenly, ain't on offer. Jedediah's grin widened. Shame. Was hoping this would be easy. Without warning, Jedediah's hand dropped. Elias raised the Winchester. The first shot slammed near his feet. Clara's rifle cracked, splintering the fence post beside Jedediah's horse. The raiders scattered, gunfire erupting. Elias dove behind the water trough, bullets chewing into the porch rail. From the loft, a shotgun blast rang out. Alara. Clara kept low, returning fire with steady aim. The battle was chaotic. 2 men tried flanking left. Elias sprinted behind the wagon, dropping one with a clean shot. The other retreated. Another rider charged the house, firing wildly. Clara's second shot found him square in the chest. Enough wasting time. Burn him out, Jedediah shouted. Elias's blood ran cold as he saw a rider toss a Molotov. Clara, inside, Elias shouted. But before the bottle could fly, a distant rifle cracked. The rider's hand exploded. The bottle dropped. Elias's head snapped toward the hilltop. Tobias Finch, the old ranch hand, stood silhouetted, rifle steady. Beside him, 3 more men appeared, neighboring ranchers, friends. Relief flooded Elias. Damn it, Jedediah cursed, yanking his horse around. We ain't done, Thorne. The remaining raiders disappeared into the hills. Silence returned. Smoke drifted. Bullet holes pocked the siding. Elias lowered his rifle, exhaustion heavy. Clara appeared, pale but steady. They'll be back, she said. Elias nodded. Yeah, but so will we. The morning after the raid, the sun rose crimson over Willow Creek. Smoke still curled from the splintered porch. Elias stood at the fence, jaw tight. Tobias Finch leaned beside him. Blackwood ain't done, Tobias remarked. No, Elias agreed. He sent Slade first. Next time it'll be worse. Tobias spat. You got a plan? Elias didn't answer. His gaze drifted to Clara, mending on the porch. Alara fussed over bullet holes. Elias's gut twisted. He couldn't outrun Blackwood. Couldn't hide Clara forever. But maybe, just maybe, he could outplay him. That evening, Elias called Clara into the kitchen. I'm going to town, Elias said. Clara's eyes narrowed. Deadwood. Elias nodded. You got that little book still? Clara pulled the leather-bound ledger from her boot. You going to trade it? Not exactly. Elias slid the book into his coat pocket. I'm making a deal. Alara set down her dish rag. Elias, he held up a hand. I ain't handing him the girl, but we need this to end, Alara. One way or another. An hour later, under darkness, Elias saddled his horse. The trip to Deadwood was quiet. As the town's lights came into view, Elias's pulse quickened. He rode straight back into the snake pit. The serpent's coil was grimy and crowded. Elias stepped inside, hat low. Blackwood sat at his usual corner table, flanked by hired guns. His grin stretched wide. Well, Blackwood drawled. Thorn returns. Thought you'd be buried on that ranch by now. Elias approached slowly. I ain't here to trade shots. I'm here to trade terms. Blackwood chuckled. What makes you think you got any? Elias pulled the ledger from his coat, setting it on the table. Blackwood's eyes narrowed, his easy grin faltering. This ledger's got names, Elias explained. Dates, amounts, payoffs. Enough to burn you clean off the map. Blackwood's smile returned, colder. You'd be dead before that book left town. Maybe, Elias allowed. But copies travel faster than bullets. A tense beat passed. Blackwood leaned back. What do you want? You call off your dogs, Elias said. Leave me, my wife, and the girl be. You tell your boys Clarice is dead, buried under 6 feet of Dakota clay, and you never so much as breathe our names again. Blackwood tapped his glass, considering, and in return, Elias pushed the ledger toward him. You get your book. No copies, no threats. You keep your empire. I keep my family. The saloon held its breath. Finally, Blackwood snatched the ledger, thumbing through its pages. His jaw tightened at the names, the details. You always were a gambling man, Thorn. Dangerous game you're playing. Elias shrugged. Ain't much of a life without risk. Another pause. Blackwood snapped the ledger shut, sliding it into his coat. Done. Elias nodded, though the knot in his stomach didn't ease. Deals with devils never came clean. As Elias turned to leave, Blackwood called after him. You ever cross me again, Thorn? Ledger or no ledger, I'll burn that ranch to the ground with you in it. Elias didn't flinch. You ever ride near my land again, Blackwood, you won't ride back. With that, Elias strode from the serpent's coil, mounting his horse beneath the cold, watchful moon. The deal was struck. The girl was safe, for now. But as Deadwood's shadows faded, Elias knew better than to believe devils kept their word for long. It rained the night Elias returned from Deadwood. A slow drizzle fell over Willow Creek, soaking the dry ground. Alara met him on the porch. Clara lingered in the doorway. Elias dismounted. Well? Alara asked. Elias nodded. It's done. Alara's jaw tightened. You made the deal. I gave him the ledger. He promised to leave us be. Told him Clara was dead. Clara's eyes flickered. And you believe him? Alara pressed. Elias hesitated. I believe he'll let this cool down for now, long enough for us to breathe. But men like Blackwood, they don't forget. They don't forgive. Alara's face softened. Then we make sure we're ready. Weeks passed without incident. No riders. No strange tracks. The storm had broken, leaving Willow Creek in peace. But the ranch had changed, and so had its people. Clarice worked harder than ever. Her small hands blistered from fence repair, her boots caked in mud. Elias taught her to rope, ride, and mend saddles. At night, Alara taught her to read and write. The girl soaked it all up. But beneath her focus, Elias sensed a storm brewing, one not from Blackwood. It came to a head one warm evening in the barn. Mr. Thorn, Clara said suddenly. Elias looked up from a saddle. Yeah. Why'd you really gamble for me? Her voice was steady, an edge beneath it. Elias set down the saddle. I saw something in your eyes. Fight, anger, but something more. Something stubborn. You reminded me of me. I knew if Blackwood kept you, he'd grind that out of you. Clara's jaw clenched. So you bought me to save me. Elias shook his head. I bought you to give you a choice. Ain't nobody owns you here. Clara's eyes shimmered. But I ain't just here for charity. Elias chuckled. No, you earn your keep and then some. Clara's gaze drifted over the barn, the fields. Her expression shifted. Mr. Thorn, she said, quiet but firm. I want to stay. Not as charity, not as a hired hand. Elias's brows furrowed. What are you saying? Clara took a deep breath. I want to be part of this, for real. Your family, your legacy. I want to learn how to run this ranch, not just mend fences. The real work, the money, the land, the decisions. Elias's throat tightened. He hadn't expected this, But looking at her thin arms, wolf's eyes, stubborn chin, he saw a survivor, a fighter, someone meant for more than alleyways. "You sure?" he asked quietly. "It ain't easy. Ain't always fair. But it's real." Clara nodded, jaw set. "I'm sure. I ain't got blood family left, but I can choose one." Elias exhaled slowly. "Then it's settled," he said. "We'll make it official. You're a thorn now." A faint smile broke across Clara's face. That night, around the supper table, Elias and Alara laid it all out. The adoption, the responsibilities. Alara's eyes shone as she took Clara's hand. "You're not just a stray we took in," Alara promised. "You're ours. Blood or no blood." For the first time, Clarice didn't flinch from kindness. Under that rain-washed Dakota sky, Willow Creek Ranch gained more than another set of working hands. It gained family. It gained hope. It gained a fighter who would defend it with blood, sweat, and maybe, just maybe, with love. 5 years passed like a prairie storm. By spring 1890, Willow Creek Ranch was transformed. Fields were green, cattle healthy, barns repaired. But the real change was in the children. The first arrived on a cold autumn morning. David, a boy no older than 10, barefoot, clutching stale bread. He'd run from the mines after his father died. Elias found him sleeping in the hayloft, ready to drag him to town until Clara stopped him. "He's me," she said simply, 5 years ago. So they kept David. Then came Rebecca, a wiry girl with hidden bruises. Then Samuel, who couldn't speak but could fix fences. By 1890, a dozen children called Willow Creek home. And Clarice Thorne, now 18, was their leader. She ran the ranch with steady hands and sharper eyes. She taught the younger ones to mend fences, count cattle, break horses, and, more importantly, to trust again. Elias and Alara built Willow Creek. Clara turned it into a sanctuary. One April morning, Elias found Clara by the creek, teaching David and Rebecca to rope calves. Her voice was patient but firm, her stance confident. "You've got them working like ranch hands already," he remarked. Clara smirked. "They'll thank me for it come roundup season." Elias chuckled. "Rebecca was tough, like Clara." "Been meaning to talk to you," Elias said. "Alara and we've been thinking." Clara raised an eyebrow. "Always dangerous." Elias's grin faded. "We're not getting younger. This ranch, it's more than land. It's a home, a refuge, and it needs someone to run it when I can't." Clara's smirk vanished. "You talking about me?" Elias nodded. "You've earned it. You've bled for it. And those kids, they look at you like they do me. Maybe more." Clara fell quiet, her gaze drifting over the ranch. It was hers as much as theirs now. "I thought," she hesitated. "I thought when I turned 18, I might leave. See the world. But I don't know anymore." Elias studied her. "Ain't no chains holding you here. If you go, we'll miss you. But you've got a home here. You've got family." Clara's jaw set. "This place saved me, Elias. You and Alara did. If I can do that for someone else, maybe that's enough." Elias's chest swelled. "We're proud of you, kid. Whether you stay or run this whole damn ranch." Clara smiled then, a real, full smile. That summer, Willow Creek's reputation spread. Folks whispered about the ranch that took in strays and turned them into cowhands. Even Sheriff Dobson tipped his hat. Children came from Wyoming and Nebraska. Orphans, runaways, the discarded, all found work, shelter, and hope. But it wasn't all peace. Clara never forgot Deadwood or the man who still cast a long shadow. Silas Blackwood hadn't been seen in years. Some said he left. Others claimed the Pinkertons caught him. But Clara knew better. Men like Blackwood didn't just disappear. One autumn evening, as the sun bled crimson, Clara stood on the porch, watching storm clouds roll in. Her fingers traced the scar on her forearm, a faint reminder of the cost of peace. Alara joined her. "You okay?" Alara asked softly. Clara nodded. "Just thinking about the past. About the future." Alara squeezed her hand. "You built something here, Clara. Something worth protecting." Clara's gaze lingered on the children playing, their laughter soft. "Yeah," she whispered. "And I'll protect it no matter what." Willow Creek wasn't just a ranch anymore. It was a sanctuary, and Clarice Thorne would fight tooth and nail to keep it that way. The spring of 1900 dawned warm and bright. Willow Creek Ranch stretched wide and green. The air buzzed with the promise of a good season, rich grass, fat calves, and peace. Clarice Thorne stood on the front porch, watching a wagon approach, kicking up dust. Tobias Finch, grizzled and smiling, sat at the reins. Beside him, a boy of maybe 12, sharp-eyed and hollow-cheeked. In the back, two smaller children, a girl of 8, a boy barely 5, clutching a tattered blanket. New arrivals. Clara's heart twisted, a familiar ache. She knew the look. Wide, weary eyes, thin limbs, guarded expressions. She'd worn that mask once. Elias Thorne stepped out beside her, gray now streaking his beard, but his eyes steady. "More lost ones," he remarked. Clara nodded. "Marcus from the orphan committee said they'd come." Alara appeared at the door. "Lord, they look like they've been dragged through the Badlands backwards." "They probably have," Clara replied, descending the steps. The wagon rattled to a stop. Tobias tipped his hat. "Brought your new charges, boss." Clara arched an eyebrow. "Boss now, is it?" Tobias grinned. "Always was." Clara approached the boy first. He stared up with suspicion. "Name?" she asked gently. "Jeremy," he muttered. "You hungry, Jeremy?" The boy hesitated, then nodded. "Too proud to beg, too honest to lie." "We'll fix that," Clara promised, turning to the others. "What about you two?" The girl peeked out. "Alice," she whispered. "And Benny. We don't got nobody." "You do now," Clara said softly. Within an hour, the newcomers were washed, fed, and settled into the bunkhouse. Rebecca, now 16, showed them around. David, nearly grown, tended horses and promised to teach Jeremy. Elias and Alara watched as Clara took charge, her calm presence steady as the hills. "She's turned this place into something," Alara murmured, pride in her voice. Elias nodded. "More than cattle, more than land, a future." That evening, the family gathered in the big dining room, Thorns by blood and by choice. The long table groaned with stew, cornbread, and milk. Laughter echoed. After supper, as the children played outside, Elias poured coffee for himself and Clara. 10 years ago, he began. "I thought bringing you here was a mistake. Thought you'd break this place, or we'd break you." Clara sipped her coffee. "Fair. But I was wrong," Elias continued. "You saved this ranch. Saved us." Clara's smile faded. "You saved me first." Elias shook his head. "We gave you shelter. You turned it into a home." Outside, the stars blinked awake. Clara's gaze drifted toward the bunkhouse. "You ever regret it?" she asked quietly. "The deal?" "Blackwood." Elias leaned back. "Not for a second." Clara exhaled, eyes distant. "I still think about him. What if he comes back?" Elias's hand rested over hers, calloused and steady. "We'll be ready." "Same as always." Clara nodded, the fear loosening. They sat in silence, watching the ranch settle. Tomorrow the work would begin again. But tonight there was peace. As the moon climbed, Clara whispered words she hadn't spoken aloud in years. This is home." Elias squeezed her hand. "And you're the heart of it." In the years that followed, Willow Creek Ranch became more than legend. It became a sanctuary across the Dakota Territory. Newspapers printed stories of the place where orphans became cowhands, runaways learned to ride and read, where the lost found not just shelter but purpose. At its center stood Clarice Thorne, the girl with wolf's eyes, turned woman with steady hands and an iron will. The girl Elias Thorne had gambled for. The girl who changed everything. If you reckon the West ain't just about outlaws, but about stubborn folks patching up broken lives, about ranch gates swinging wide for the lost, and about the kind of family you choose, then pull up a chair by the fire and hitch your wagon to the Wild West stories. 'Cause legends out here ain't always carved by bullets. Sometimes they're built by quiet hands, heavy hearts, and the grit to protect what matters most.